All right, guys, we're here in the Sparked Innovations parking lot again with the HHR. It's back on the road. It's a mess because it's been sitting so long and it's been used as the test bed for some things. However, we're going to get into talking about the Conductor, but I want to touch on something from the last video. And that's, some people don't know this cool little tidbit, that running your own wire, multiple lengths of zero gauge copper wire, I mean 2 or more, 2, 3, 4 lengths of zero gauge for your grounds, is an upgrade over using the steel body chassis grounds of a modern vehicle. That's why you'll see big systems, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 watt systems, running multiple ground wires along with their positive wires from the front to the back, going from that alternator bracket back to their batteries, or from a front battery to the back batteries. And that's because copper is 30 times more conductive than steel. So it is an upgrade, especially for high-powered systems. You're going to run your positive wire anyway. So yes, maybe there's a couple extra bucks. Hey, you spent thousands of dollars on batteries, on amplifiers. Why not spend a couple extra bucks on just a couple lengths of black wire to run along with your positive wire from the front to the back? That's a foundational thing. First things I've done in here was sound deadener and running my positive and negative wires from the front to the back, so it's set up ready to go. So that's a little tip that you should know. If it's a small system, you don't have to do that. So if it's a big system, it's an upgrade. And if you're going to install the Conductor in the front or the back, all it has to do is go in line with that ground. So let's talk about that. So here's the Conductor. Now, again, this is what test beds look like, so please just... Anyway, from the last video, that kind of showed a setup more tuned to bigger systems, where you might put the Conductor up front to be able to split to a front battery and then to rear batteries. You can put the Conductor in the back. You can put it up front if you just have a front battery. You can put it after batteries before your amps to see amp draw. However, there's a lot of different setups and a lot of different information. The basic concept that I don't want you to miss is that the Conductor merely needs to go in line of the ground wire. You have a ground wire already going to batteries. Here's this ground wire going to this Titan 8. There's a terminal back there, ground wire is going up. I would have to ground this anyway, and if it's just in the back, I can ground it right to the chassis. So all I would do is cut that wire and put the Conductor in line, and that's what it is, this line, and it is directional. And there's multiple terminals, input here for just direct wire, or input here for lugs for the ring terminals, output here for direct wire, or output here for ring terminals. So chassis ground goes here to the input. On the output side, it then goes into the battery. So either this line stays intact and goes directly to the battery, or I cut it, put the Conductor in line here, and now I can use the Conductor through the display to read any current going into that battery. And actually, since it's directional, it'll read current going out back to chassis ground for any accessory in the car that is connected to chassis ground, like the headlights, the heater, the radio, all that will come back off of chassis ground and show itself as negative. We'll demonstrate that in a second. However, if I then connect my amplifiers and stuff to the battery ground, now anytime this battery is drained down, I will see it through the Conductor as a charge current. So just that is the concept. Whatever setup you have, however many batteries you have, you merely have to put this in line. And yes, it has to be ground. That's how this technology works. If you put it on positive, the display itself will burn out, since the display has to get its ground from this base unit. So this has to go on ground. You already run wire to the negative terminal of your battery. All you have to do is cut that and put this in line. But now I also have this as a distribution. If I want to add more batteries, I can just tap into the output on this side and it will read the charge from the alternator to all of those batteries. Or I can link the battery to there. However I want to do it, this is just in line with the grounds. There's no ground that loops around it. It's in line between the chassis and the battery. Now let's demonstrate what I mean on the display. So right now everything is off, so you can see zero current. There's no current flowing in the vehicle. If I were to turn the key just on without starting the engine, you could see some negative current flow. See, I have my headlights on, heater, and so this is all coming off from the battery, through the conductor, into chassis ground, then out of chassis ground to all of the components that are turned on right now. So you can see the heater turns off, it goes down. I have my headlights on, let's turn those off. We go down a little bit, I have a dome light on, I have the radio on. So we still have some negative current flow. Now, when I start the engine, what's going to happen is the battery is going to want to charge off the alternator. So what I'm going to see is that flip to the positive, and it'll show the battery drawing current from the chassis ground through the conductor into the battery. So the alternator going to chassis ground, going through the conductor into the battery. This will show that charge. And that's the important thing I want to watch for. And the reason is I want to make sure my alternator's performing at its best, that I didn't heat soak the alternator, that I'm not drawing too much for a too long period of time, that the battery is drawing what it needs to draw. Now, like I said, there is another use for this. I can connect the conductor on the output for amplifiers to see how much they draw. And that'll show me if I have a surplus or deficit in power. But that's another use. That's using two conductors, which is great. But right now, if I want to see what my alternator is doing to make sure it's performing, I'm going to start the engine and watch this number. So there we go. I'm currently getting 120 amps of charge from my alternator to the battery. And you can see the voltage as well. So as the battery charges, this number should drop. Well, it will drop, and that number will go up. See it there. All right, so I'm nearly topped off. It takes a while to fully top off the battery, especially while the engine is running. If you have amplifiers on, obviously it's going to be a constant drain and charge. But right now, this eventually will get close to zero, and it'll display that when that's up around 14.2 to 14.4. You can see it shifting to zero now, which means that it's mostly topped off. And I have a charged battery, so I'm good. When I shut it off, though, some of the things in the vehicle stays on. So we'll see a negative again. Now when I get out and the dome light shuts off after I shut the door, that'll go back to zero when everything's turned off. But that's a cool little demonstration.